Hello friends, greetings for the day. Welcome back to the tutorial on ISTQB Foundation. We are finally concluding this chapter with the last topic on the dynamics test techniques with the chapter 4, and we will be having the last topic to understand from this chapter is choosing test techniques. We have been talking about the entire chapter where we learned about how the test cases are being prepared, what are the different categories of the test design techniques. We do have different types of testing like specification and structure based, experience based, and so on. But it equally become important for a test team to understand when to implement what type of technique, because we do have a number of things to understand, like all these techniques are there, but at what point of time do I consider equivalence partition, or is it required to go ahead with statement testing? Is it going to require any kind of implementation of experience based techniques or so? So it really becomes important for an individual to be aware of that what are the different things to be taken care at this point of time to understand the various factors influencing the selection of the techniques. Otherwise, you just know all the techniques, and obviously at any point of time you can apply any of the techniques, but having the understanding and having the weightage, you basically have certain factors which should be considered while you select the techniques. So let's look at some of the important information about selecting or choosing the test techniques at K2. So at K2 means you need to just understand, and a possibility that there could be a question here, but strictly they have a lot of other questions. Like we have a lot of questions coming from this chapter, almost around 12, having the highest weightage in the examination. So all the areas are possibly important for you to at least expect one question from each topic. And that's the reason I have broken even a smaller topic into independent tutorial, so that you don't feel it clubbed together or something. So this topic is going to be very straightforward, no explanation, no understanding required to follow this topic. All you have to do is just concentrate on the inputs given here on the screen right in front of you now. As the choice of selecting the techniques depends on several factors, which includes like type of system, regulatory standards, customer and contractual requirements, level of risk, type of risk, test objectives, documentation available, knowledge of the tester, all about like how much experience he is, time, budget, the development model in use, experience with the types of defects. So if you see this, obviously these are very common factors which you started with in the chapter 1. That is, obviously this application plays a vital role. If there are some regulatory standards to be taken care, then you talk about more formal techniques compared to specification based, compared to experience based, because you would need to derive certain test cases and document your test cases for evaluating or traceability of the coverage of risk and so on. So very important. Customer and contractual requirements, obviously what kind of requirements do you have, what the agreement which you have made about the operational deliverables to be given to the client, whether it is operational acceptance, contractual acceptance, or what it is, you need to do that. Level of risk, type of risk, obviously depending on the severity of the risk what you have identified, based on that you go ahead with writing more number of test cases, more formal test cases for such severe risk which you have identified. But when the risk is at low level, you really don't have to worry about it. Maybe you can go ahead with exploratory testing in that case, instead of preparing the test cases, writing it formally down. Test objectives and documentation available is obviously like what is your objective, what do you want to test, why do you want to test this particular module, what's the weightage of it, what's the criticality of it, what is the testing scope. Depending on all these factors, you can decide on what technique to be used. Documentation available, I was just telling you in the previous tutorial when we were talking about experience based techniques, that if there are documentation which are defined at high level, brief documentation, then obviously formal techniques cannot be one of the techniques to be utilized. So all you can go ahead with is the experience based techniques, or that's where we know documents availability can help you with one of the factors to decide on what technique to use. Knowledge of the tester is also from the experience based techniques, that if you would like to implement experience-based technique, then the tester must be experienced and understanding the typical type of defects, having knowledge about the applications previously dealt with or similar type of application he would have worked with it before, so which can help him to recall the defects what he or she has experienced in the past projects and help them look for such defects and prepare necessary and effective and sufficient number of test cases based on that. Time, budget, these are like another factor when you talk about you are running out of time or you have enough time. If you have enough time, you go with formal techniques. You're running out of time, you go with informal. That's your experience-based techniques. Similar with budget, which is directly proportional. If you are having enough budget, you conduct formal techniques, you implement formal techniques. But when you're running out of budget, you have only limited budget remaining to cover the testing and have the coverage, you can go with experience-based techniques. Similarly, like SDLC model, like working with Agile, are you working with V model or something? Then V model utilizes all the formal techniques, but when you talk about Agile, mainly we conduct exploratory testing there. So, and putting this all together is obviously, these are the several factors which can help you to decide on what technique to be used at what point of time. Also, it's not limited to selection of technique. We would also like to add at the end of this entire chapter that test techniques can be combined. Like you would have seen some of the examples in the tutorials of black box testing techniques and white box testing techniques, that they can combine the question with two different techniques and then they can ask you. So yes, you are free to combine two or more techniques to have better coverage or better confidence. So obviously it is important that there are some limitations of each technique. So obviously these limitations can be overcome by having combination of different techniques put together to derive deriving minimum number of test cases, because all the techniques are about that, but at least you will be having certain areas which will be uncovered as a part of the combination of the techniques. By combining these techniques, you can have a better coverage with less number of test cases. So you're always free to decide on these factors and then select an individual technique or maybe a combination of different techniques to apply it and get the best coverage and best product delivered. So anyways, that's all from this tutorial. That is like, how do you decide on selecting a technique? How do you choose the test technique? And this is all we have got from this segment. If you understand this is more than enough to answer a question. The next tutorial will be looking at the sample questions of this chapter, and that would be more interesting compared to what you have learned, because you will be applying those techniques and getting the right answers. So stay tuned for upcoming tutorial. Till then, enjoy watching the videos and let me know if you have any doubts, clarification or queries about these tutorials. Thanks for watching. This is all for now. We have more videos coming up on the upcoming tutorials and also on the upcoming chapters of this tutorial. So stay tuned for more videos. Do hit the bell icon for getting notified about the latest videos. And in case you have not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe as early as possible, because we'll be having more videos about technologies and testing coming up right after this. So stay tuned, and till then, enjoy learning. Happy learning. Take care.